All right, let's talk about what might be one of the most important real estate deals in all of history. Seriously, it's a story that starts with grief, but then turns into this masterclass in diplomacy and a high-stakes negotiation that literally laid the first physical foundation for a nation.
So the whole thing gets started at a really tough moment. Abraham's in the land of Canaan, right? But here's the thing. He's a foreigner. He doesn't own a single inch of ground. And his wife, Sarah, has just passed away. So in the middle of all this grief, he has this massive urgent problem. Where can he bury her? And it's this very personal tragedy that kicks off something, well, something that changes history.
Okay, so here's the game plan for how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at Abraham's really heartfelt request. Then we'll dive into the negotiation itself, and trust me, it's fascinating. After that, we'll see how the deal gets closed, price paid in full, and finally, we'll unpack why this one little piece of land has such a massive legacy.
So you really have to put yourself in Abraham's shoes here. Yeah, he's a wealthy guy, he's well-respected, but legally, he's an outsider, and that puts him in a really vulnerable position. He can't just go and claim some land. He has to ask for it, and he has to do it just right.
And this is his opening line, his big plea to the locals, the sons of Heth. He gets right to the point. He tells them, I am a stranger and a sojourner with you. He's basically saying, look, I know I'm not one of you. I don't have the rights of a citizen. It's incredibly humbling. And his request, it's just so simple, so human. He just needs a permanent place to bury his wife.
And this is where things get really interesting. See, this isn't some quiet, backroom deal. What's about to happen is a very formal, very public negotiation that follows all the intricate customs of the ancient Near East.
You have to appreciate Abraham's strategy here. It's brilliant. He doesn't just walk up to the guy who owns the land he wants. Nope. First, he shows this profound respect by bowing to the entire community. Then, he asks them, the elders, to go and talk to the landowner, a man named Ephron, for him. It's a really smart diplomatic move that gets the whole community invested right from the start.
So the community comes back with what sounds like this incredibly generous offer. They're like, you're a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in any tomb you want. It's a very polite, very welcoming thing to say. But, and this is a big but, notice what they're offering. It's permission to use a tomb, not to own one. Big difference.
Then Ephron, the landowner himself, gets up and makes an even bigger, more dramatic public offer. He doesn't just offer up the cave Abraham wanted, he offers the entire field it's located in. And he says he'll just give it to him as a gift. Right there in front of everybody, he says, I give it to you.
So, what do you think is going on here? Is this guy just unbelievably generous? Or is this a classic shrewd opening move in a negotiation? Because in the world of ancient bartering, a big public offer like that is almost never what it seems on the surface.
Let's break this down. Abraham was crystal clear. He wanted to buy the cave, but Ephron completely sidesteps that and offers to give him the whole field. Now this puts Abraham in a really tricky position. If he accepts this gift, he's now forever in debt to Ephron socially. The only way he can get out of it is to insist on paying, which is exactly what Ephron wanted him to do all along.
And there it is, the moment we've been waiting for. Ephron finally throws out a number, and man, the way he does it is just brilliant. He says the land is worth 400 shekels of silver. And then, in the same breath, he just brushes it off like, but hey, what's that between friends like us? He drops this huge price tag and then pretends it's no big deal. It's an absolutely masterful negotiation tactic.
Now let's be super clear about this. 400 shekels of silver, that wasn't just a lot of money. It was an absolutely astronomical price for a field back then. I mean, we're talking a huge amount of money. Ephron wasn't just selling a piece of land here. He was cashing in on the deal of a lifetime for sure.
Okay, so the price has been named. The clever back and forth is over. Now comes the most important part, making this deal official, legal, and public.
Abraham's next move is what really seals this whole thing. He doesn't argue, he doesn't try to haggle the price down, he just immediately agrees. Then he weighs out the silver, current money with the merchant, which is key. It means it was standardized, high-quality silver, the real deal. And this all happens out in the open, at the city gate, with all the elders watching as witnesses. This makes the sale totally official and irreversible.
You know, the description and the text reads almost like a modern-day property deed. It's that specific, which just goes to show how legally binding this was. It lists not just the field and the cave, but all the trees that were in the field, right down to its borders. Every single detail was recorded, so there could be absolutely no arguments later on. That property was now, without a shadow of a doubt, Abraham's.
So Abraham buries his wife Sarah. But the real importance of this story, the real legacy, goes way beyond just finding a final resting place. This was all about the future.
So why does this one transaction matter so much? Because for the very first time, Abraham, the guy who called himself a stranger and a sojourner, actually owned a piece of the land he'd been promised. This purchase wasn't just a purchase. It was a statement of faith. It was a physical anchor in the land. It was the very first foothold.
I mean, just think about that journey. It starts from a place of grief and total vulnerability. Then, through some really skillful diplomacy and a very high-stakes negotiation, Abraham pays this incredibly steep price. But what's the result? A permanent legal possession. He literally transforms his own status from just a wandering foreigner to a landowner with a real, tangible stake in the future.
So that kind of leaves us with this one big thought to chew on, right? This whole thing, this incredible story, it started with a really basic human need, to honor the dead. But in doing that, Abraham didn't just get a grave. No way. He secured a future. And it really makes you think, doesn't it? How often does our commitment to the past actually end up defining all the possibilities for our future?